honestly, silver is probably going to be more than capable of making you a very, great deal of money. We're setting a bit of a historic precedent here.
Was it really that event that caused the rally to go up?
The economy is going to start suffering pain.
That's going to be bonkers. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Talking Trades. Of course, Kevin Wadsworth and myself, Patrick Karim. And this is going to be awesome today. Everybody wants to know what's going to happen with silver. Well, Kevin's going to do a great expose for you guys on how to analyze properly the price chart of silver.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Pat, for that. Okay, let's dive straight into it. And a picture paints 1,000 words. So let's look at a picture. This is the chart for silver going all the way back to, going back almost 100 years, in fact, more than 100 years. So let's just focus on more recent history there from the 1980s onwards to where we are now. And those of you that have been following our work will be aware of the fact that we identified a cup and handle pattern for you back in 2020, 2019, around that sort of time. And the cup and handle pattern has played out very well, actually, in the cup part of it. You can see started in 1979 there when the price started to carve out this huge cup shape that took us back up to the peak in 2011. And we didn't get any higher than where we'd been back in 1980. Although a lot of people at the time, I remember, were expecting it to go much higher. And what's happened since then is we've formed a handle to that cup. So again, this is the chart that we put out for you a number of years ago now when the price was spiking down into this COVID low back in 2020. And what we said at the time was that the geometric arc, this pattern that's guiding the price upwards, as long as the price of silver continues to respect the arc or the sort of miniature cup pattern, then it would guide the price up to the top right-hand corner, which is in the sort of $40, $50 area by 2025, 2026, where we are now. So the target area that we gave was effectively this here. And that was when the price was down here somewhere. So it's got there eventually, erratically. And I know a lot of people have been tearing their hair out, getting quite frustrated with it. But you have to remember that back down here, we were at, sort of $14, $15, and we're now sort of gone past 20, gone past 25, 30, 35. And now we're almost touching $40. So where are we going to go? Well, let's just simplify this a little bit, and I'll get rid of the drawings for a moment. And you will remember that with the gold price chart, I drew a resistance line that went back to 1980 on the monthly price chart. And we can do exactly the same with the silver chart. Now, if you're going to scream at me and say, yeah, we've only got 2 touch points on this, so it's not really valid, I totally agree. But this is a prospective target on the monthly time frame for silver on the log timescale. And it worked for gold. In fact, I can show you, I'll just quickly switch to gold and I'll show you that it worked for gold. And you can see that's our gold chart. And I drew that line on the gold chart. And for 2 or 3 months, the price hit that line, pulled back, and then broke out. So now let's go back to the silver chart, XAG USD. There we go. Right. So if we do the same exercise for silver, it gives us a first guess as to where this move is going. So if I just draw a horizontal line on that chart, you'll see that the price is somewhere around about $52, which sounds reasonable, doesn't it? We're close to 40 at the moment. So that is the sort of level, I think, as long as gold doesn't break down here, as long as gold stays up above, let's say, around about $3,200 or so. And it's been in that range, 3.2, 3.3, 3.4 for several months. As long as gold sort of either stays in that range or begins to move a little bit higher, then I think silver is highly likely to get up to this 52 level. It might spike through that 52 level. You'll notice that back in 1980, when the price was rising rapidly, it spiked upwards and then settled the month a little bit lower. And there's a little bit of a spike there back in 2011, although it didn't, the wick on the candle didn't go quite as high. So I think somewhere around about that sort of $50, $52, $55 area is very plausible for silver. Now, what happens at that point? Well, you'll notice that the distance from its moving average for silver is nowhere near as stretched as it is on the equivalent gold chart. So that's another way of saying that silver perhaps has more energy, more fuel in the tank. Certainly got enough fuel in the tank to get to $52. It stretched to about 150% above the moving average back in 2011, and we're nowhere near that at the moment. We're all the way down at around about 45% above the moving average. So from a historical point of view, silver is capable of moving very significantly higher. How much higher? Well, one target would be the depths of that small cup. So that would be taking us to close to $180, $190. And then a secondary sort of estimation would be the depths of this cup down here. And that would give you a seemingly crazy target of, let's say, $600, $700. Now, that might sound bonkers, but when you look back at the 1970s, when the price of silver went from $2 up to $50, so 25 times increase, or even in the 2000s, where it went from $4 to, let's say, nearly $50, that's a 10 times increase. So a 10 times increase from roughly where we are now, from sort of $30 or so, let's say, you'll be talking somewhere in the $300 range. So when we talk about $200, $300 silver, from a historic perspective, that's nothing really out of the ordinary. And where gold goes, silver goes, it carves out very, very similar price structures, very, very similar patterns on the chart. So where gold goes, silver goes, and then eventually where gold and silver go, oil goes as well, and commodities more generally. So I think silver breaking out above this level will be a really big signal to particularly the miners, probably, as we start to see accelerating prices. And of course, the miners will be printing money as the prices accelerate towards those sorts of levels. So we can expect them to do well. But honestly, silver is probably going to be more than capable of making you a very, great deal of money just by being positioned in silver, particularly after any forthcoming stock market weakness. So if the stock markets, for whatever reason, begin to roll over in the next several months, then silver performs very, very well on the recovery side. So one plausible scenario is silver gets up to this $50 area, pulls back, and then breaks out more significantly, or it does what gold did, and it sort of breaks out fairly quickly, only just sort of acknowledging that line for a relatively short period of time. So it's going to be fascinating to see what the price of silver does when it does get to that sort of $52 area. But that's where our next sort of upside target is likely to be. And you stuck this all against the weight of evidence as well for precious metals bull era, the fact that gold and silver are breaking out versus stock markets globally as well. And that tells you that we're entering not just a bull market, but a bull era. And a bull era is when you're outperforming the stock market. Okay, Pat, that's me rambling on about silver, and I hope that was useful for everybody watching.
Kevin, one word: ka-ching. All right, guys, like, subscribe, and get more of this. Take care, guys.
Cheers, everybody.